way of creating some consistency across the world, where you get different bird species all being called by the same name. And we've actually come straight into the middle of a bird feeding party. There's a crested barbet with that big stump. Oh, the joys of a live safari. It just flew away. There's a whole load of Cape glossy starlings. They look like a couple of long-billed cromebecks. All of these birds are very, very tricky to get on camera because they're small and very speedy. But bird feeding parties is what happens when they all group together. Come on, come out. For new viewers working on your bird list, this is a very common one that we get. But sometimes rather uncooperative. That was a crested barbet that we were trying to show you. Also a very striking bird. There you go. I've chatted about new viewers and ambient sunshine. You were wondering where it is we are, or what our location is. We are on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves. That is where we operate within the Sabi Sands, which falls part of the Greater Kruger area. So the part of the northeastern corner of South Africa, one of the most incredible wilderness areas, definitely the biggest one within South Africa itself. 3 million hectares, so 3 million football fields of untouched wilderness landscape that we're fortunate enough to move about on. And we have our own little segment of it. And today, everything is playing really camera shy because there are a couple of dwarf mongoose in here as well, which is one of my favorite little creatures, the smallest predator that we have on the reserve. They've promptly run away. Just going to, sorry, I just check some of the tracks here. Nope, our leopard still hasn't popped out. This is the most difficult of all of the tracking lights. When it's overcast like this, as soon as it gets to about 6 o'clock, becomes really, really tricky because the sun's not catching the tracks and creating shadows. And leopards, I think the best description in terms of tracking leopards came from Steph, who suggested that it is a little bit like following tissue paper blowing across the ground. It does just mean that I have to keep checking rather thoroughly. Now, if you are Brent-sized, so 6'4", looking over that side of the vehicle is much easier than if you are my size, or dare I say James's size, since we're roughly on equal footing in that respect. Which is why I keep swerving the car off to the left to check that side of the vehicle for tracks. Chatting a little bit about birds and the various bird species that you can encounter here. I mean, we've easily got well over 300 birds that you could see during the summer months. And one that is incredibly common around the world is the pied crow. And Velma, you were wondering if I've ever seen one on Djuma. Once. Happened once. Now, usually you see them, it's fairly common for you to not see them in game reserves because they are quite heavily in competition with other bird species, but you'll see them in the sort of surrounding townships and surrounding roads where they pick off bits of roadkill. But I've seen one once on Djuma. It was at the time, for regular viewers, when the... What have we got here? This is interesting. Oh, Wow, this is so cool. No, stay, stay, stay. Please stay, please stay, please stay, please stay. They're all around this tree. Let's get a good shot of them before they disappear off. What have we got? I think we've got a whole collection of Amur falcons. That was really cool before they all flew away. There's very few falcon species or little bird of prey species that are as sociable as the Amur falcons, A-M-U-R. And they tend to get together and hunt in groups. And I'm fairly certain, although I didn't get the clearest view before they flew away. That was so cool. Wait, hold on a second. Sorry, Velma, I'll get back to your question in a moment. I really want to see if we can get another view of these birds. There they are. They're sitting on the top of that dead tree. Oh, no, don't go. There's still some sitting there, too. I know it is right into the light, so I'm making Tebs' life very difficult. Let me show you what they look like. And the reason I'm saying it's Amur falcons, having only seen them very briefly, is just because of the social nature of that particular bird. So we're looking at number 3 here, which is these birds. Tiny, tiny, tiny little birds of prey. And with a slight sexual dimorphism. So that's the male on the left, and then the female on the right with a whiter face. And they roost communally in trees. So it's very interesting to see them. Awesome. Really, really cool. That's a first for me on Juma. And it might be a first for some of our more regular viewers as well. So add it to your bird lists. Really interesting stuff. But back to Velma's question. Velma, you were wondering whether I'd ever seen a crow. Yes. When the Birmingham boys chased the Nkahunas off the Buffalo Kill in the drainage line off Twin Dams, they decided not to finish the carcass. They weren't actually that hungry, and there were about 60 vultures clustered around it. And in between these vultures was one poor little pied crow, desperately trying to dive bomb its way in between the vultures and not get chased away by them. It was fascinating to see. Alright, well, that concludes our birding talk for this segment of the morning. Let's head back across to James, see what he's up. No, sorry, doesn't conclude the birding talk. There's a purple roller. And it's gonna fly. Birds, man. Shouldn't even try and put birds on live TV. Let's head across to James and see what he's up to.
So we've come to this little termite mound here in the midst of these drainage line systems, and there's a huge number of birds calling. You can hear the hyenas going there. There's some Aramark babblers behind us. Quack, 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 quack. All around us I can hear southern black tits calling. And through the drainage lines the southern boo-boo. That thing's the sticklers. Franklin behind us. And way in the background, you won't be able to hear it, is Ingodoto, the ground hornbill. Do 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 do. It's the male with the deep voice, do do, and the female going do 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 do. The most wonderful sound. So you can see a nice view off to the west there, and a lovely kind of view of the clouds moving slowly in from the southeast. Alison, you're aged just 10 years old, and that's marvellous that you're on our little walking safari with us this morning. You want to know what a squirrel alarm call sounds like, Alison? I'm not sure where you're from in the world, but it sounds like because there's squirrels in many parts of the world, and I believe that they sound fairly similar throughout the world, but it basically goes, and it sits there going, flicks its tail like this. There you go. That's basically what a squirrel does when its alarm calls. So our plan from here is to head sort of north up towards where those hyenas were calling. I think they're calling from the den, which is not too far from here. And Susan, very nice question from Brooklyn. You're asking about whether when we're walking on foot we feel a natural part of the ecosystem. Very nice question. I think it's different for everybody. Certainly the idea is that we become a participant far more on foot than we are just observers. And in the vehicle we try to be an observer completely. On foot we are much more an active participant. It's a much more primal experience because of course we evolved here on the plains of Africa, and for us to walk through here is to almost go back to that position in the ecosystem where we are seen as the apex predator. Our brain is our greatest weapon. We are not stronger than anything out here. We are not faster than anything out here. We are not more potent in any way other than for the fact that we can think so much more effectively than any other animal that has ever lived. And that's what our main weapon is. And to walk through here with that knowledge that we are physically almost inept out here. Obviously Viam is more apt than I am because he's carrying so much more weight. But yes, Susan, there's definitely a feeling of active participation rather than observation when you're on foot. You've got to be a lot more aware. It's a different kind of awareness. You know, Jamie's driving around now. She does a lot on foot as well. But so just if you were to compare Jamie and me now at this moment, she's looking around. Her focus is on searching for animals and searching for tracks. There's a hyena running there, walking there. That's wonderful. Well spotted, Vian. Can you still see her? Yeah, I can see her here. She's there. She's walking away from us. Oh, that's wonderful. Well spotted. I think she might be coming closer here. She was moving away and then I think she turned round. Maybe she smelt us. Nothing. Okay, no, she's gone away. Wonderful, big hyena female, possibly going towards the water. We'll go round that way and see if we can see her. So, I mean, that hyena is the most wonderful example of what I was saying. Much stronger, much faster than us. If she saw us on foot, she'd just disappear. She'd melt into the bush. So, look, Jamie is looking around. She's searching for tracks. She's listening, she's smelling, of course, but she's observing more from the vehicle, which means that her sense, her brain is not engaged in, ooh, what's around that bush? Ooh, what's around that tree stump? What kind of track is that? Where's the wind blowing? Because she doesn't have to be quite as aware in the car. It's a different kind of awareness. And on foot, yeah, it's much more of an active participation. Let's just wind our way around the back of the termite mound here and see if we can't spot that hyena. Otherwise we'll carry on towards the north. Can I give you a hand up, yeah? You're right. I'm just going to hold the camera and give myself a little selfie while I answer Tina's question. Tina, you want to know if we're walking on animal paths or if we're just wandering about the place. We started off on an animal path, a hyena path that's been made probably over the years, like you say, from the Gallagher waterhole up towards the den site. The den sites are often used again and again. But then if we find something interesting, so we came off the path to come look at this termite mound. There are a couple of holes in the termite mound where I think dwarf mongoose are trying to live, and so we did move off the path And I mean, we're not walking anywhere near where I expected to walk this morning, but we've modified our route according to the alarm calls that we've heard and the different sort of tracks that we've seen. So it just depends, Tina. Depends entirely on what we see. Now, the hyena went walking through here. She will now know that we're around because she will have heard us. She won't have smelt us. The wind is still coming straight from in front of us, which is ideal. So let's just walk through here. There are two birds in there. I can't, just in that knobthorn there. You see them there? I think it's a plum-coloured starling. You see them? Let's move this way. There. It's not a plum-coloured starling. That's a little battus. No, it's a puffback shrike. Puffback shrike. And it makes a call that goes... You see it there? It's right in the open now. There we go. There we go. What's the puffback? I didn't see it very well. It looked very small to be a puffback there. Maybe it was a battus. You really can't confuse the two. It's appalling that I've confused them. There it is. Let me just, for my peace of mind, let me identify it. I can just see it moving in there. I don't know. Ooh, X rang a very nice question. Do I get the inspiration for my music from the sounds that I hear in the bush? Not so much the sounds, sometimes the sounds. It's definitely from the feeling of the bush though. That sound sounds like an angry buffalo. Just listen. Or a hyena. It's a hyena growling, groaning. Ooh. Come, let's go look. I'm going to walk very slowly down through here. Well, not so slowly, but very quietly. That hyena's probably found something to eat. Don't know if you heard that. That's wonderful. Isn't that wonderful? Go and see if we can find her. She's gone down through here and up the other side. She's moving. Here you can see her tracks. They've come down through this drainage line here. Do you think we can get down there, or should we go around there? Okay, come, let's try and get through here. Like I say, VM is carrying quite a lot of equipment, so it's not easy for him to just descend through here. Let me move that out of the way. There we go. It is so difficult. Right, let's try and get down. If it becomes difficult, we'll link to Jamie. There you go, VM. We want to try and go up that path there. There we go. This is actually easier if I walk behind VM because I can keep the sticks out of the way. So if he tumbles down to the bottom of the drainage line, he won't fall on me. and goat. Okay, I think our signal is a bit dodgy in here. Almost there's a little cave system in here. Cave system, I mean, it's a very unimpressive cave system, but it's quite pretty. Just there, back up out to where it like she was moving though. Okay, across the meet.
It appears, have been walking circles around this corner of Djuma. On my way down Impala Road, so south along Impala Road, when I discovered other leopard tracks coming north. Looks like our female again, but how on earth she managed to crisscross like that? Essentially would have been she's gone back on herself and then back again, which immediately brings me to the inevitable conclusion that it seems to be Karula that we're tracking, just because that does seem to be how she moves. We've spoken a lot back when we did Big Cat Week, and we had Bright and Jeffrey, the two trackers, and they were talking a little bit about how she moves, and she'll go at 90 degrees of her original direction of movement for a while, and then change completely and go back away from where she was going. Whichever leopard it is that we're following, it was walking incredibly fast. And that's something that you can tell by looking at the space between the front track and the back track. Now usually when a leopard is walking at a normal pace, it does what's known as registering. So her back foot would fall where her front foot falls. When they start to move faster, that back foot moves further and further in front of the front track. And in this particular case, the distance was about this far, which suggests almost like she was trotting along the road or speed walking. And I wonder whether she wasn't replying, possibly responding to the call of another leopard.
Thanks, Craig.
Maybe even a male across on Simbambili. That's why I'm driving down Triple M to just check to see if she's crossed. Now, if she is following the call of a male leopard, I know many of us are curious to see if Karula might be giving us any cubs anytime soon. I know, Brian, you were asking about that. The last time I saw her mating, to the best of my knowledge that we know of, was about 2 months ago. So she's got another month, if she is pregnant, before she's going to start to look for den sites. And that was with Tingana around Red Dam on Arathusa, just around the end of October. And there's a very, very distinct possibility that she is pregnant, just by the fact that she hasn't been, to the best of our knowledge, and I don't want to cause any false hope, but to the best of our knowledge, she hasn't mated since that session, which means there's a good chance that she is pregnant. She's looking for a suitable den site, and what we're so lucky with Karula, of course, is the fact that Djuma is her core territory. It's the core part of her territory. And from what I understand from the information passed on to me from our regular viewers, is that she's very often denned very close to the Boyatela Lodge or around Galago, in that area where we were looking for her this morning. So do I think that she could be giving us cubs? Entirely possible. We've got maybe about another month. The next question becomes, as we've chatted a lot about the impact of this incredibly dry weather that we've been having as we jolt our way down along Triple M. Sammy, you were wondering what kind of effect a drought would have on a leopard cub's development, and actually, in fact, it should be positive. For the big cats and for the scavengers, this is a good time of year. It means that the animals are restricted to whereabout they can move to within water sources. Now, usually during this time in summer, there's puddles everywhere, and the animals are really, really widely distributed. But at the moment, they are crowded around the various and the only water sources that they have on the reserve. So that means for a leopard, she doesn't actually have to move too far, especially if she chooses to den around the Voyatela Lodge. She's not going to have to move too far away in order to come across prey, because they're all forced into that slightly smaller area. So for leopard cubs and lion cubs, in fact for all predators, it is a time of plenty around now. That being said, that doesn't last forever. So what you'll find is when herbivore species population starts to drop, the predator population climbs a little bit, because it's a time of plenty. They have plenty of access to food, they can scavenge, and we do know that leopards do scavenge. They're nothing if not opportunists. So they will scavenge off the carcasses of animals that die as well as hunting their own. But once that happens, by the time we roll on to next year, if the drought continues, there won't be nearly as many baby impala born, there won't be nearly as many baby wildebeest, and life becomes a lot harder for the predators until the prey population starts to increase again. So there's almost like a lag phase in terms of the impact that weather like this has on the population of the animals out here. But for Karula's leopard cubs, if they are born in the next few weeks, life is going to be fairly good for them. It's the perfect time of year. There's lots of baby impala around, and there's lots of animals struggling and not moving all that far away from water. Of course, the other animal that will benefit tremendously will be the hyenas. I know that you were listening to the hyenas call with James. They're also going to have an amazing time of things over the next few months. The other aspect of it that is, I'm trying to look for positives here in our drought, is we can see a little bit further into the bush. So one day, just in answer to Monkey Man's question, oh hello beautiful Kuru, let's try and get a view of you. The more we can see into the bush, the more chance we have of seeing some of the more unusual creatures. Monkey Man was wondering what the most unusual animals are that we get out here. Definitely one at the top of the list would be the pangolin. Looks a little bit like a walking artichoke. A very shy, very secretive creature, much like this kudu that I promise you is in there. I promise you it's in there. It's a beautiful big male, and I'm going to try and get you a view of it. I know that this patch opens up around there, so let's try from that side. So pangolin is a secretive nocturnal creature that feeds off termites and ants. There's also the fabled aardvark, which has become a bit of a running joke where I'm concerned, because I've yet to see one. Somehow, despite living in South Africa my entire life. It's just so that I can show you there is a kudu there. Not the best view of him. There is a massive, massive male kudu there with the most beautiful coloring. It is so distinctive. Look how clear and white. It looks like somebody's taken white paint and poured it down his back, and then it's dribbled down his sides. Those are so beautifully distinctive, and he's got a beautiful dark coloring to him. As he disappears into the guari thicket. Now there's a squirrel shouting. These leopards are running circles around me, but we're going to go follow up quickly. And we're going to move fairly fast. We'll get back to our big male kudu. So monkey man, pangolin, aardvark is I've yet to see, but we know that they're around here. I've seen a couple of honey badgers while I've been working on Juma, but also a very shy, very secretive creature. I haven't seen that many white-tailed mongooses since I started working here, also a secretive nocturnal animal. And then, of course, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of things, there's a lot of, we're right on the sort of the distribution range of quite a few bird species. There's always the chance of seeing something like a white-headed vulture, which is particularly endangered. This leopard walked all the way up this road. I'm so confused as to what these leopards were up to last night, because now there's a squirrel alarm calling here as well. Kudu are calm. Here's our beautiful kudu boy with those magnificently widespread horns. I think James has something exciting to show you. Let's head across to him.
That's much too slow. There's a herd of buffaloes there now. Okay, we've come into an area now. There are some the breeding herd of buffaloes come right up here. They were chasing a hyena that just came past us here. It's all happening. There are oxpeckers screaming, oxpeckers shouting all over the place. Very angry guinea fowl. Hornbills. We popped our heads up over the top of this termite mound, and there was a hyena coming right along this path here. It's gone off that way, and then the buffalo. That's the same breeding herd of buffalo. It's obviously turned around and come this way. The wind is not great for us. Okay, we need to move. Come, Liam, let's go this way. I'm just going to move up out of the way here. Come with me, Liam. Quite quickly. Just watching the buffalo there. They're certainly not about to attack us by any stretch of the imagination, but we're in thick bush. And what that means is we don't want to be too close by in case they get a fright. They start running, they'll just start running kind of indiscriminately. Now the thing is, when you're walking like this and you're trying to move away from something, the key is not to walk away and just look behind you the whole time. You've got to keep looking in front. We were walking just now and we came across a buffalo bull who was standing maybe 20 meters from us. We just weren't paying attention. There's more movement through here. There's the hyena. There's the hyena. The buffalo is still coming up behind us, so I'm going to keep moving. Let's keep moving, Liam. The hyena's right here. There it is there. That is wonderful stuff to see. Right, let's keep going straight up the same path. There's buffalo clearly coming this way, and we don't really want to be in their way. So we'll keep going. Isn't that hyena just fantastic? We're quite close to what looks like could have been an old hyena den. It might even be a used hyena den. Look at this. I wonder if we wouldn't find a young hyena inside one of these holes. It might be a secondary den. What do you think?
It's a pathway.
Yeah, it's got all the pathways, the hyena lurking around here. And of course, what happens if you come to a hyena den and there are cubs, the cubs will disappear inside, the adults will move off. Now those buffalo, I can still hear them coming this way. They're obviously on a path off towards the north here, probably because there's good grazing. Let's keep going. Stay in front of them, and then eventually when we get out of this area, we'll sort of veer off slightly to the eastern side, and hopefully we'll come back in a vehicle and check this den out. I just need to find out exactly where it is, because to get a car into this area here is almost impossible. It's so exciting. And the big thing, like I say, if you are around, just come over here, Viam. Just keep an eye there. There's the hyena. This is definitely a den, people. This is definitely a den. This is incredible. So why are we standing here, Bill? You're in Australia. This is why this hyena is not moving off. Because there's a den here. You want to know what? She's going to come over here, yeah? She's going to call a youngster out. She's going to call a youngster out of the den there. Bill, you want to know what evasive action would take for a lion or a leopard? Bill, lion and leopard are the last things we're worried about out here. Not the last, but we're certainly not worried about lion and leopard. But it's buffalo, elephant. Those are the things that are going to take the most offense to you. And it's when an animal becomes threatened. Come over here, Liam. It's when an animal becomes threatened that it becomes danger. Now, a lion will normally just get up and run away from you unless it's got a cub, or unless it's got a... There it is. It's just behind us now. There's definitely something going on in this little den, and I know exactly where we are. We're right near Mvubu Road. I think we'll be able to get a car in here. I wonder if we shouldn't try and get Jamie in here if she gets sick and tired of following that leopard that she's following. Maybe she can come and have a look in here. That'd be worthwhile. So a lion and a leopard will normally just move away from you unless you come across them, a lioness or a leopardess with cubs. Then they can be quite threatened, and then they might charge. So you just stand still, keep a distance. With a buffalo or an elephant, especially a threatened elephant, the elephant herd, you very seldom will view on foot unless the conditions are perfect. Unless the wind is good, they're not aware of you, you'll normally just move away from them because they can become very easily threatened. So it's more buffalo coming this way. So they are the ones that we have to watch out for. Normally it would be the buffalo and the elephants. Let's keep going. You can hear the buffalo coming. Bleh. So what I'm going to do is just try and find a way out onto Mvubu Road. I think Mvubu Road is just up here, and we're going to try and make our way out there and just see if we can't. We'll leave a branch for Jamie on the road. In fact, I might try and guide her in myself if she's around here, and she can come and just check this den, because that hyena is not going to bring the cub out. If there is a cub in there, she's not going to bring it out if there are humans on foot. Just keep an eye out for those beefaloes. They're just grazing gently this way. Whew, so exciting. It gets the heart rate up, but it's a wonderful feeling. It's such a primordial feeling. And you know, we've watched hundreds of hyenas on foot over the years. I've seen hundreds. I'm sure VM's seen hundreds. But you know, it's when you look them down in the eye there and you realize they're faster than you, they're stronger than you. If that hyena wanted to have both VM and I for breakfast, it would have had absolutely no trouble whatsoever. This little stick that I'm carrying would not have provided a great deal of resistance. But you saw how it reacted to us. It wasn't running away, I think mainly because it's at the den there, but it was certainly a little bit nervous of us. Right, we're approaching Mvubu Road now. So hugs. Yeah, a good question about those hyenas. And if they had cubs in the den, would she see us as a threat and might she become more aggressive? Yes, possibly. But as I say, what happens is at a den site, when there are cubs, the cubs generally, if there's a threat, lions come up, leopards come up, the cubs disappear down inside the den because you can't get to them, and no lion can get to them, no leopard will be able to get to them, and the adults then just melt away into the bush. So it's a very clever way of dealing with it. It's a big hole in the den into which the cub will go, but the dwarf mongoose. in the absence of that security, the hyenas are not likely to become aggressive, more likely to just hang around a bit closer by than they would normally. Right, let's keep walking up here. I think the road is just up ahead, if I'm not mistaken. And then Jamie can just wind her way gently in here. If I was near the camp, I would suggest we just go back and fetch the car. Here is the bone, and we've been talking about hyenas, and you can see that this bone has been chewed open, and only a hyena would be able to break open a bone that size. Keeping an eye around what's going on. What a wonderful walk. Right, come, let's go towards the road. I'll be excited if we found yet another hyena den. I, of course, am probably Juma's greatest hyena fan. It's actually a little roadway here. So there was obviously a sighting. There was obviously another sighting in here. And something here has dug an enormous hole in that termite mound. Should we have a look? Hey? Let's go look around here. Viam is not scared. God, these buffalo are just, they won't leave us alone. So Jamie's just found an elephant herd. What we're going to do is link across to her. I think it's best that she stays with them. We can come into this hyena area anytime. There are buffalo coming this way again, and so we're going to make quite a hasty retreat. I just want to get away from them. I don't want them to keep finding us in their path the whole time. Let's head across to Jamie. We'll catch up with you a little bit later.
And we found a wonderful elephant herd. They are in some incredibly thick bush at the moment, so I'm going to try and approach really carefully so that they don't disappear. I think they're on their way towards Gallagher Waterhole, so we might get really lucky. Oh, girl. It's okay, guys. It's alright. Calm down. A little bit unsettled. Racing across into thick bush. They could also be really, really thirsty, which is a distinct possibility. They've got a little bit of an elephant water walk, as Brent describes it. Here comes the last female of the group, moving across in front of us. And about 50 meters away, that fence you can see in front of her, that is the camp's home. That is the DRC. She goes. Now, I'm not going to try and follow them through this block. It's monumentally thick. I was on my way to go and join James and figure out what interesting things he's found to show us. But let's go around and see if they pop out at the Gallagher Waterhole. It's one of the last few clean places for them to go drink. Now, I said that they have the elephant water walk. That's Brent's description, not mine. But there's something, they speed up ever so slightly. They get that head up and a big swing to their movement, like they're really excited to go and drink. And I think that's what we're seeing there. There's also a fairly tiny baby with them as well. Here very quickly. No, it sounds as though James is cooking hornbills. 4 ground hornbills flying off through the air. How fascinating. Yesterday we had 3 of them about a kilometre away from here. Well done, Tebs. Now we've got 4 moving through. The most graceful of flyers. And we said yesterday we sort of were wondering whether or not we might get lucky, and the possibility that they could decide to start nesting around quarantine, around that drainage line area. They love those big open spaces as a foraging opportunity, and they prefer to nest in thick drainage lines and where there's some nice big trees to shelter them. We'll keep an eye on them. They're flying off towards, looks like they're flying off towards DRC. What bird have we got up there? Oh, this morning's full of distractions. We will get to our elephant herd in a moment. What have we got there? Looks like a dark chanting goshawk and 2 buffalo weavers sitting above it. Double check that. Oh, I would have said it was a dark chanting goshawk. Awesome. So many things for us to see. It's called a dark chanting goshawk because of the way that it chants, which makes total sense. Has a very musical, very magical call. You do get to hear it. I'm going to leave it for now, though, and see if we can catch up with the elephant herd. Now, for those of you wondering about the big ball of blue GoPros on the front of the vehicle, we didn't originally have on this morning. Most of our regular viewers know by now that it is a virtual reality rig. But for new viewers, it's something that we're experimenting with, having a go at being able to bring a 360-degree live safari experience. At the moment, we're just practicing with different sightings, and something like an elephant sighting is the perfect way to go. Where did you guys go? Oh, some more vocalizations from hyenas close to us. Listen. Oh, don't stop now. There we go. Hello. What you up to, hyena? Good morning. What you shouting about? You seem to be having a hyena-filled morning. Did the elephants chase you away? There's contact calling, that incredible whooping sound. Oh, it's got a hole in its bottom. Looks like something bit it. Nasty injury, that. I mean, it's not going to cause that hyena any kind of danger. It did look rather painful. There's just hyenas all over the place. I know that James is waiting for me to head across and join in after our elephant sighting, figure out what's going on. That hyena is heading up towards the den. The den site's just here. I think it probably got disturbed by the elephant herd that moved through here. Very interesting things happening with our hyena clan at the moment. And we're learning an incredible amount very quickly about their dynamics. Just making sure I don't come rushing around the corner into an elephant. We saw that last female elephant that crossed in front of us. She was probably the best view that we had before they ran off. I know that there were some people who were suggesting that she might have looked pregnant. Now, the last few days I've seen a very, very pregnant female wandering about. She's in such a late stage of her pregnancy that the pregnancy is actually sitting low. So Dejo, I know you were wondering whether or not she looked pregnant or suggested she did. It's entirely possible. There's our elephants there. Come out across in front of us. Hello. Are you stressed out today? Okay. All right, girl. Go ahead. You can go to the dam. She wants to get... I can hear the other elephants drinking. And she wants to go and join them. But she's quite stressed out by our presence. Now, the more these animals are under pressure from this drought, the more careful we need to be about the way that we behave around them. So you've noticed that I've been really, really careful about approaching these elephants. They're just giving me quite a few signs that they are uncomfortable. I'm going to put my car into low range now. All that does is it means that it lowers the revs as I enter the sighting, rather than stress them out. They are all drinking at the dam. So once that elephant moves in front of us, which she has now, we can get across to them. They're all secreting from their temporal glands, I noticed when we entered the sighting, which can be a sign of happiness, but most often it's actually a sign of stress. The elephants are stressed out. It's because they've got a very, very tiny baby with them as well. Very young, so. Hello, guys. Oh, how beautiful. What you doing, baby? Got its head right down in the mud. Hello, girl. All right, girl. Giving you plenty of space. Look at that little one. Stumbling up out of the mud. So they came to exactly where we expected them to be. Just keeping my voice down because they're all very, very stressed about something. Oh, little one. That male's poking and throwing his weight around a little bit. Hello, girls. All right, girls. One of the females, the one on the right, is that one that is particularly stressed out. And she's been looking at us out of the corner of her eye the whole time we've been here. Now this male's moved up across to her, and he's paying particular attention to her. Now that's the female that we said looked pregnant, so she could be passing on smells to him that he's curious about. He's sniffing around her temporal glands. Some very interesting behavior here. He's actually been quite gentle with her. Not so much anymore. And yes, you're right, she does look pregnant. Not as pregnant as that cow that I'd seen in the past. Very often, we've seen it with the impala, a pregnancy hormone can give off something similar to a male that induces him to think the female's in estrus. Look how she's backing away from him. Very uncomfortable with his presence. Now, what we don't want to be is have any kind of misplaced aggression. Look at him. He's going to put his trunk there to sniff around her labia. And then there's a chance he's going to put it into the roof of his mouth. Let's see if he does that. There you go. So elephants can't phlegm and grimace, but they do have the organ of Jacobson there. So that phlegm and grimace that many of our regular viewers are familiar with, when the animals draw back their top lips and their nose, elephants can't do that. But they do have a way of dragging the scent up into the organ of Jacobson. And essentially what he's doing now is he is tasting her smell and testing to see if she's in estrus. And I think, because she does look pregnant to me, I think it's because she's giving off a scent that's tricking him. Yes, because now he also has an erection. Hello, girl. Sorry, girl. It's not my fault he's being a pain. Just gonna sit nice and still. There's some stress and some aggression. Now she's going to urinate on demand. That's a sort of a combination of signs of submission as well as instinct. He's going to have a really good sniff now to see if there's any chance of him getting lucky. It's actually quite a young male, which might explain why he's confused. There he goes again with his trunk up into the organ of Jacobson. He's got his wires crossed because to me she looks quite pregnant. It's very similar to what happened with the impala over the last few weeks, with the males chasing the females around despite the fact that they've only just started giving birth. You're going to come take it out on me now? Nope. I'm going to have a snack instead. Sorry, buddy. You got the message now. She's not really all that keen on you. Very interesting interplay of dynamics there. As I said, he looks to me to be quite young. He's got quite long tusks, but they're not very thick. And he's quite short. It's hard to age an elephant, so I'm sort of guessing at it. But I would say that he's just around his mid-20s, possibly even younger. Well, Sacrosanct, you've actually got a very valid point. Come on, Elise, what's happening? Sorry, the rest of them are coming through. Now, Sacrosanct, we saw that action of the elephant placing its trunk up into the roof of its mouth. And you've raised the point that it's called, or that you thought it was only called the organ of Jacobson in snakes or reptiles. And actually, if we're going to be really formal and official, you are correct. It is the organ of Jacobson. In mammals, it is known as the vomeral nasal organ. But recently, over the last few years, biologists have started to use the same term for both in mammals and in reptiles, just because that organ does essentially fulfill the same purpose. But yes, the organ of Jacobson's, if we're going to be fully correct, is in reptiles. In mammals, it is known as the vomeral nasal organ. But it's something that guides recently we've started to use just as a way of simplifying things. Little baby filtering the water there, spraying out the bits that it didn't want. Hello, guys. You're very stressed out. Hey? It's okay. Could be that male's been harassing them all day. We should also explain their stress levels. So those temporal glands that we spoke of, these two youngsters are now hiding away behind a buffalo thorn. And there's the male. Is he going to go and pay more attention to that poor female? Or is he just going to reverse into the baby elephant? No, he's going to go... He's nice and relaxed now. In fact, the whole herd is relaxed gently and slowly. Now, typically, the males don't associate much with the female herds unless there is a female in estrus. But every now and again, as in this particular case, they do come upon a herd and they spend a bit of time with it and occasionally get their wires crossed. Christy, you were wondering if there's any way that she could get him to leave her alone. If she starts to get really stressed out, she's going to be vocalizing, and occasionally what will happen is the rest of the herd will come and back her up and form a defensive circle and start to push him away. That being said, I've seen harassment by bulls, by male elephants on many, many levels, and usually it's the females who suffer and who struggle to get rid of their unwanted attentions. And that's just because they are so much bigger and stronger. And especially for her being pregnant as she is, she's got to be more careful than usual. She doesn't need a tusk to the stomach. But it has been a really interesting sighting to see. The rest of the herd could assist her. They could come to her assistance, but they generally try to avoid it. He's quite a small male, so they've got a better chance of being able to push him out and send him away. But with the larger big bulls, especially when they're in must, it becomes much more difficult. Now, she had a previous calf with her, and that's definitely her calf, just judging by the way that it stuck around with her. And Shell, who is watching in Detroit, Shell, you were wondering how old that calf would be that was with her, and my guess would be coming up to about probably 4 or so. It's a rough guess, it's a rough estimate, especially because the tusks weren't coming through all that clearly. But that's usually around the time that the females become pregnant and have their next calf, when their previous calf is about 4 or 5 years old. It's a 2-year gestation period, so it's usually quite a gap between estrus cycles, and they don't necessarily fall pregnant straight away. Hello, little one. Have you got an itchy foot? There's a perfect rubbing post. I love that posture. Hey girl, it's all right. Don't stress. The rest of the herd's still drinking away, and one youngster who looks about the same age, about 3 or 4, drinking at the pan, running back for more water. Oh, the excitement! So exciting to go back and drink more. Now, it's interesting to watch their behavior, because when we came into the scene, we coincided with the arrival of that male as well. And I don't think they were done drinking, even the members of the herd that moved off. So they're still hanging around, and they're getting more comfortable, first of all, with our presence, just because we've behaved ourselves. We haven't put ourselves in their personal space, but also because they're relaxing a bit around the presence of that male. But there you can see in the female at the back what looks like water running down between her eye and her ear. It's not water. That's a secretion of hormones and pheromones coming from the temporal glands. And it's a good way of elephants determining each other's mood. And even when that looks completely dry to us, whenever elephants greet each other, when they greet a herd that is unknown to them, you'll very often see strangers walk up to each other, and they place their trunks over each other's heads and put the tip of the trunk around that temporal gland. It's almost like an elephant way of shaking hands and saying, "How are you today?" Except they do it through smell. Still trying to keep track. That male, I think the male who is the one on the right, the pregnant female is the one on the left, and I think he's realized that she is not actually of any interest to him. But he made a beeline straight for her. So it's really interesting to see the effects that this kind of thing has on elephants. And it's this kind of behavior has repercussions far and wide. Now, in the Kruger Park, we're fortunate enough that we've got vast areas of space, but there are a lot of closed system reserves with elephants that need to figure out some way of controlling their population, because an overpopulation of elephant can have seriously negative effects on the ecosystem around them. And a lot of places implement contraceptive programs, which is really interesting. A lot of studies have been done into it. Hormonal contraception can be very dangerous for the structure and the social system of the elephant herds. But even something that doesn't necessarily impact on their hormones, but that prevents fertilization, you then have a whole different kettle of problems, just because the females keep coming back into estrus more regularly, which means they're harassed in the same way this one was by bulls more frequently. So just some interesting aspects. That behavior that we saw today has repercussions beyond just application to that pregnant female. Okay, well, let's find out what James has been up to, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Well, everybody, you can see that I'm clearly very attractive to at least the flies of this area. There are about 7 million of them on me, and Fiam is enjoying himself filming them, simply because for some reason he is not being attacked like I am. Now, we found yet more buffalo as we were walking along, so we had to extricate ourselves from that situation. Then we came up through this thick stuff here. You can see it's a very thick bush, and we heard some elephants. Now we tried to sort of find them, but it's very thick, and you don't want to be trying to view elephants on foot in thickness like this. We heard dung propping gently onto the ground as they fed through here. I think possibly just one bull. We only heard one. So then we came along to the south here, where we found an active termite mound. Now, please note, I'm putting my binoculars down. This means that if you see me after we've been at this termite mound and I don't have them, you need to hashtag SafariLIVE with the great aggression, so that Kirsty can tell me to come back here and fetch them. The number of times I've left them out in the bush is ridiculous. Right, come and have a look here, everyone. This is an active termite mound. We have a lot of questions about whether or not they're active or dead, and some people will tell you if they've got vegetation on them, they cannot be active. Well, this puts pay to that story. This is a very active termite mound, and you can see it's just been built here. And I don't know if you... I'm going to take the microphone off here and try and get you to hear the clicking noise that they make when you come near. Here, try here. Did you hear the click? That clicking. There you can hear that. That's just the soil going, but they make a clicking noise. They can sense us coming. Here's one now. We'll try in here. Microphone is now inside the mound. Come on, make your clicking sound. Go on. Anyway, there you can maybe hear that. There's a soldier going. There. That's wonderful. Right, so this mound is very active. Now we'll try and find an actual termite to look at. And what we do is we go with the method long employed by one of our closest primate relatives, the chimpanzee. I think baboons have also done this. We stick this down here. Let's stick the furry bit down. We try and retrieve a soldier who takes this for an attacker, grabs onto it, and extract him. And then normally, if I was a chimpanzee, of course, you'd put the grass to your mouth and eat the termite. This is not very good fishing. Hang on, everybody, I will sort this out. Hello, Debbie. You want to know if there are chimpanzees here? No, Debbie, there are no chimpanzees here, other than the one you can see before you right now. And the chimpanzee occurs mainly in the rainforests of Central Africa. There we go. Now, if I was a chimpanzee, Debbie, and I lived in the Congo Basin, or the rainforests of Central Africa, around Gabon or Ghana, I would then put that in my mouth. I'm not going to do that, largely because I do not wish those vicious little mandibles, those mouth parts, to bite my tongue and maybe sort out this for the rest of the day. Isn't that amazing? Look at the incredible mouth parts on the soldier termite. Now, despite the fairly fierce nature of this animal, it is quite interesting to note that they are almost powerless often to defend themselves against the attacks of various kinds of ants. Now, there are lots of different kinds of ants here. I'm going to put this chap back. There you are, fawn inside. I'm just going to leave the stick there. You can see it moving. And the ants come into the termite mound, and what they do is they go down into the mound and they find the chamber where the eggs are kept, or where the little instars are kept, or the immature ones are kept, and they'll carry them away. And while they're engaged in a pitched battle outside or inside the mound with the soldiers, so the ant workers will carry away a whole lot of the termites. Now, in a termite mound like this, there must be millions and millions of termites. Remember, there's a queen somewhere in the middle of this mound, way down underneath in the middle, that is laying 20,000 eggs a day. That is a lot of eggs. And if you are laying 20,000 in a day, let's say you have 65 days off in a year, you're going to be laying 6 million eggs a year. Is that correct? 20,000 times 300 would take us to 60,000 plus a 0, 600. 6 million eggs a year if she's taking 65 days off. So in 3 years, she's got 18 million termites. Now, given that she can live for 15 years, 15 times 6 is, not being very helpful, 90 million termites she can have laid in her lifespan. And I don't think all 90 will be in here. Some of them will die, and all of them will live for 15 years. So you can probably say at any one time, probably 5 or 6 million termites living in this little mound. Pretty impressive, I think. How was that for mental arithmetic there, Viam? Yeah, thank you. Right. I have my binoculars. Let us press on. I don't wish to see another buffalo today. Yes, thank you, curious one. It's not that I don't like fishing, you say, but even though I'm not a competent fisherman, I'm obviously a very competent termite fisherman. Yes, well, you know, we all have to have our specialities in life. Brent Leo Smith catches tigerfish. I catch soldier termites. It's a little known sport. Certainly, I think there are about 3 or 4 people who belong to the Termite Fishing Club of South Africa. I am the chairman. So, we're walking through this kind of thick area, and I made mention yesterday of the fact that although there's water on Buffels Hoek, which is a sort of private farm to the north of us, where there are 5 or 6 different landowners, and everybody's got his own dam there, and so it's attracting a lot of animals there. What happens? Someone is pushing we're pushing buttons by mistake. I don't know what that is. The Duvium, was it me? No one's pushing our buttons. Anyway, what it means is there's definitely some button pushing going on here. We'll just turn our radios off, that's the way to do it. Okay, we seem to be okay now. So, Buffels Hoek, lots of water there. Animals are basically spending a lot of time there. But because there is not as much water on Djuma, if you look around us here, there's a lot of forage here for browsers specifically. And I think you'll find as the drought progresses, the forage is going to reduce. The closer to the water you get, the less forage there's going to be, and it's going to be more and more away from the water that you're going to be finding the animals. They're going to have to start traveling to water. And you can see lots of forage here for something like an elephant or a kudu. And if we look at the ground, you can see not nearly so much as for a buffalo. So there's really not a lot for a buffalo to eat. Right, let us carry on. I'm not sure what's going on with the comms. There does seem to be a small problem. Let us ask Kirsten to do a comms check. Kirsten, do a comms check, will you? Yes, there we go. I can hear her. Right, now, Jamie apparently is at the silver cluster leaf tree. So what I'm going to do, the branch that I left, in the bush there for the hyena den, the new one. So I will hail her upon this radio and let's try and guide her in. Jamie Patterson, do you copy?
Standing by.
Confirm you are at the Silver Cluster Leaf.
That's affirmative.
Alright, what you need to do is to head west into the block there and then head slightly south. So follow the sort of line of the drainage line at the distance that cluster leaf is from the drainage line. Head slightly west and then turn south, and in a thicket of knob thorns you will find a large termite mound in which the den is.
Copy that, thank you.
I would say probably 200 meters off the road. Yeah.
What are you referring to?
Craig, it's a new hyena den we just found on foot. We just want to see if it is active. It looks active. Jamie, probably about 200 to 250 meters off the road. Craig, of course, got on the bandwagon there very quickly.
Copy, thank you, James.
We'll keep you posted, Craig. Right, on we go, everybody.
No rush, I've just got one young one involved.
Let's hope that Jamie manages to find that hyena den. If she doesn't, I mean, the directions I've given her are pretty dodgy. It's very difficult for her to find them. Liam is being, of course, snagged on various bushes. Then I'll go in this afternoon and have a look. I was almost thinking about rushing for home to fetch a vehicle so that we could go in, but then we were waylaid by 7 million buffalo and 12 elephants. So we shall just continue our beautiful little stroll through the bushes. Thank you. Avi, a very nice question. You want to know about the flies that were sitting on me. If they're tagging along for the bushwalk for learning experience, or if they're after the sweat. They're definitely after the sweat. And I mean, sometimes they draw blood, sometimes they bite you and they actually get a bit of blood out of you. But I think it's mainly for the salt that's coming out of my skin. And it's not very hot. I mean, the weather is actually perfect for a walk today.
Copy. Nice response.
Right, I think Jamie has heard about something else on the radio, so she probably won't be going to the hyena den.
Copy that, thank you.
Sounds quite interesting. Right, I'm going to turn this radio off, otherwise I shall become distracted. Ah, I think it's wild dogs. That is exciting. We will have to go and investigate the hyena den this evening. The hyena den is not going anywhere. As you all know, the wild dogs go a lot of where, a lot of the time. So while she's driving there at a great speed, we will make our way gently through here. Now, here's something interesting and small. There's a spider's web here. Oh dear. Sorry, I've got to be really tied up in some bush there. Interesting spider's web in the sort of the beginnings. Those are the support strands around which a spider's web would be built. And it's in a fascinating tree called Rus Gwenzii. And it's fascinating to me because at the beginning of the season, round about Big Cat Week, we had in this tree a plethora of little beetles that I had never seen before, that Steph and I identified as something called a flea beetle. And they have these enormous back legs that they're able to jump with. That's why they're called flea beetles. And they only live on this Rus Gwenzii tree. And they seem to have finished. They seem to have had their kind of bloom or flush, and then they've disappeared off. Their emergence, bloom or flush, obviously to do with plants. Oh, here's one right here. See him? Pop around here. I'm not going to try and touch him because they'll leap away. Golden and black. Look at how beautiful these beetles are. And you might be able to see the very large femur that they have, the top joint of the leg, which allows them to jump. Can you see it? There is the flea beetle. Now what I will do is try and capture one. I'll try and capture the one that VM's actually looking at, because he's not going to be the easiest one. Stay there, VM, don't move. I'll capture this one here. I've got him. Now, I'll open my hand. If he leaps, you will be able to see. There. There you can see the very big legs. Huge legs that he's got. Right, now let's see if we can make him jump, shall we? You want to jump, beetle? No. No. Oh, he's gone. That is the flea beetle. And the interesting thing about that flea beetle is that his larva is highly, highly toxic. And the bushmen of this area, or the sand people who make little poison arrows, they make bows and arrows, but not great big long bows that you imagine from the sort of medieval or dark ages films that you've seen. They're little things like this. And bushmen would sneak up to animals, get very close, probably to within 5 to 10 meters, and just ding! This little poison arrow made from, or tipped with the innards of that flea beetle's larva would then penetrate the skin of the animal, and eventually it would die. And that's how they hunted. I don't think I've walked through this particular area before. The main hyena den is down there. Hello, cat in Tampa. You're wondering how on earth we don't get lost in the bush. Do we carry a compass? There is a compass on my phone, which I don't use, sorry, VM. I would use it if it was very cloudy, but the thing is that I can see where the sun is. And because I can see where the sun is, and because I've driven around this area so much, I've pretty much got an idea as to where we are. Without the sun, and without roads as kind of landmarks, and without experience of walking through these areas, absolutely you can get lost. Some people have an incredible innate sense of direction. They feel the Earth's magnetism more than others do. I'm not one of those people. So for me it's an intellectual exercise rather than a feeling exercise. So if you can see the sun, it's very difficult to actually get lost. And we do know where the sun is, so we know where east is. I know that the hyena den that we view normally is just down in that direction there. I know that the hyena den we came from is over there because we walked around like that, and we're now close to a road called Galago Shortcut. That's it, Cat. It's basically just experience in an area. But I have had to use a compass on the walk before, just to orientate myself, especially if there's a bit of a wind blowing and there's no sun at all. And because these areas are very gently undulating, there's no kind of obvious topography, there are no mountains you can see in bush like this. Because of that, you can become disorientated in very cloudy weather. This is a particularly small property though, it's only 900 hectares. And so you're going to hit, eventually you're going to hit a road or something that is familiar. Whereas if you're on an enormous piece of wilderness that has no roads crisscrossing it, you can get very lost very quickly. And in a forest, Cat, I don't know if you've been walking in a proper forest, you can get lost within 10 meters in a forest because you can't see the sun, you can't see the sky, and unless you're very used to forest walking, you can get so disorientated so quickly. Just walk gently through here. I saw 2 birds landing here. There. There's a bird there in the tree. I don't know if you can see it. D. Jones, you're a suspicious, doubting Thomas. You want to know if this is really live or not. D. Jones, this is absolutely live, as proved by the fact that I've just answered your question live. I'm looking at a black-collared barbet. You see it there, Liam? Beautiful black-collared barbet, whose most obvious feature is, of course, his bright red face. So why he's not called the red-faced barbet, I don't know. They've got a beautiful call that goes too puddly, too puddly, too puddly, too puddly, too puddly, too puddly, too puddly. Want to try that, Via?
Too puddly, too puddly, too puddly.
Exactly correct, yes. That's the highlight of my day. Okay, let's carry on. Too puddly, too puddly, too puddly. That's the black-collared barbet. Really, we are live. Completely live and unedited. Here's an interesting plant that the elephants are starting to eat more and more as it gets drier. This is called a wild asparagus. Wild asparagus plant. That's all I know about that. I just know it's called wild asparagus. I don't think it's edible, and certainly not to us. Now, Joe, in New York, you have heard me and many others refer to this area as the low veld. Joe, you want to know if that's the same as the bush veld? No, it's not really. Bush veld is kind of any sort of wilderness area, bush area, what I suppose you would call, if you're in the States, you'd probably call it wilderness area or a rangeland. It's not quite forest because obviously it's woodland, it's quite open, it's not a closed canopy. So bushveld would be any kind of bush in this country that might be described as savanna or woodland in other parts of the world. We just call it bushveld. Veld is it's an old Dutch word or Afrikaans word that means, what does it mean? It means earth basically, or grassland. Okay, veld. So bushveld would be, I guess, thicker grassland. So grassland interspersed with trees. Okay, so that's the low, and the low veld is the low area that we are here. I'm going to stop waffling because over to the south, the greatest predator of Africa lurks with Jamie. See you just now.
We have some really, really exciting news for you, and a very exciting sighting that we're heading to. So turn that down. Bear with me one moment so I can clap at the virtual reality rig so that we can sync up all of the cameras. There we go. Just a way of when you're sorting through the footage from the different GoPros of being able to link them all together with a sound that sort of has that unifying starting point. Come around back to the corner. I can't remember now who it was. Was it Sharon? Somebody asked about our wild dogs. Well, they've made their way straight back to where they were yesterday afternoon, which I must say comes as a bit of a surprise, but I guess because there's water there, they've settled back again. So last night they went straight back to where they'd come from, across Gowrie Main. And now at some point, either during the night or more likely during this morning's moment, they've come back towards us, back to Treehouse Dam. But how spoiled have we been so far? 2016 has really treated us to some amazing moments. Just slowing down ever so slightly because I don't know exactly where they are. Know that they're around Treehouse Dam. And an epic way to end off our sunrise safari. Where are they? Gonna pull myself in as soon as I have a moment. It's just good manners. There is a wild dog over there. Oops. I just need to pull myself into the sighting before we go any closer. So exciting there. That's the, which one is that again? With the tatty ears, the male.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Aubrey for Greg.
Awesome stuff. I think the rest of them are on the other side of the dam.
Forgotten me, huh?
And there's that wagging white tail. Somebody asked yesterday if they ever wag their tails. That was a good example right there. Yeah, I'll station with the Madutch. Can I join you?
No problem. On the road you're on, and all that little sheep trying to...
All scattered around the area. This is wonderful news. If one male's wandering around a little bit, not quite settled, quite possibly even looking for a better patch of shade. There we go. Found a comfy spot. The rest of them are all scattered in front of us. There's several lying down just here. More of them around to the right. I'm not going to shift myself too much closer just because otherwise we're going to disturb them a little bit. But they're all around us. There's more there lying on the dam wall. And then our clearest view is a pile of pups, as we spoke about yesterday, which is just off to the right. There's about 3 of them there. 3 or 4. It's always rather tricky to count them. Yay! What an excellent way to start off our day. And the nice thing is that if they've decided to lie down here, means that we're probably going to have them here this afternoon as well, which is the best part of this whole thing. We really have been spoiled. Yay, Jenny! I'm excited for you. So it's Jenny's daughter Sienna's first time seeing wild dogs, and she's very excited. I'm always very excited to see wild dogs, but one of the most fascinating creatures that we have out here. They have the most interesting and complex social structure. There goes the female off to join the male. Now, she's the only female in this group, which of course automatically makes her the alpha female. Here we go, going to lie down and join her. Probably either the alpha male or the other male, which is a slightly lower ranking male. So this pack has 3 adults, 1 female, 2 males, and then 11 pups. And the pups are they're getting big now. They no longer really look like puppies unless you look closely at their faces. They're probably around 6 or 7 months old now. And now that those 2 adults have shifted off, I'm going to see if we can move a little bit closer. There's a reason that all of the presenters get as incredibly excited as we do. There's nothing like a wild dog sighting. They're one of the most unpredictable creatures out here. They have a tendency to go racing off, charging off into the bushes completely unexpectedly. Try not to disturb the sleeping pair over here. Slight view because they're so spread out. I don't want to get into their way between them. I've said that they've got this incredible social structure where only the alpha female and the alpha male will breed, and occasionally, every now and again, the occasionally, every now and again, the beta female might breed as well. And James Richards, you were wondering whether or not there's any advantages or disadvantages to having that alpha system as opposed to the system that hyenas have. So the hyena clan, all members of the hyena can breed, although there is a hierarchy to it. Well, James, it's an interesting point and something that I've thought about long and hard. The interesting thing about wild dogs, of course, is that they can have up to 20 pups in one litter from one female, whereas hyenas are sort of restricted to about two per litter. So in terms of numbers, at least the wild dogs can make up for the fact that only the female breeds by having lots and lots of pups. But it does mean that she's got her work cut out for her. Well, luckily then she's got the whole of the rest of the pack to help her. And the rest of the pack, because it doesn't have pups of its own, then becomes solely focused on looking after hers. So in a way, I suppose it's a good way of ensuring that her pups have the best possible and the most amount of attention from the rest of the pack. But obviously what's interesting about it is that no matter how rapidly they seem to breed, and that female can breed every single year she seems to be able to produce a litter of up to 20 pups. And yet they're probably the least numerous carnivore that we have out here, or the least numerous predator. So obviously there's something in the way that the circumstances have evolved to mean that their breeding strategy is not as effective as a hyena's strategy, or that they as a species are not necessarily as effective. Of course, it doesn't help that there's been a tremendous amount of human interference in the past. But as I said, they have been a protected species for a long time, and you would think, and it is a mystery that ecologists have been looking at, you would think that their numbers would have increased more rapidly than they actually have. Whether or not that's a function of their social system or whether there's other circumstances are at play, it's difficult for me to tell. I think that a hyena's social structure seems to be more effective because the mother can focus her attention on her two cubs, so I guess their mortality rate must be much lower than those of wild dog pups, because no matter how good and vigilant the babysitters are, there's always a chance that a predator's going to catch one of the 11 pups. You can't keep an eye on them all at once. Whereas hyena cubs have that safety of the den for longer as well. I know, Country West, I'm also quite surprised by that. I thought about checking Treehouse Dam this morning and then thought that the chances of them really returning to this patch of land when they spent the whole of yesterday here was pretty much unlikely. So I really am quite surprised by this. I really, really am. And I guess it's because there is water there for them as well. And yes, Monkey Man, you're right. It is the same spot where they were teasing the elephants with Brent. I'm trying to work out what it is that they like about it. We know that they like mud and water. Maybe it's the open space as well. They feel less threatened in spending an amount of time here and resting here during the day, because they're more likely to be able to spot predators. But I do find it fascinating. Now, usually wild dogs have this incredible nomadic behavior where they cover huge distances during the day. And it's not even really that hot today, so I'm also quite surprised that they're flat again at this early and not wandering around trying to hunt, but maybe they've already eaten. Tibbs has spotted a raptor. Oh, we've chatted a lot about their breeding strategy. Well spotted, Tibbs. Sorry, I'm still distracted by the wild dogs. I'm going to reposition so we can see more of the puppies. Now, I've said that the females are capable of reproducing fairly rapidly. So the pups are looked after for about 12 months before the alpha female then is ready to breed again. So it's about a year. And Zumi Jody, you were wondering where they'll go when it's time for her to have her pups. the answer is they usually use the same den sites year after year. So for this pack, as far as I know, they were denning around the Manyeleti-Buffelshoek boundary, which is why for quite an extended period of time, we didn't see them. Because the adults were not traveling that far away from the rest of the pack. Oh, there's a vulture there as well. That's interesting. So they'll probably return to the same den site unless they have any kind of reason not to. Sometimes elephants will come through and push a tree over, possibly destroy the den site, and at which point they'll go and look for another place. And the den site, just to let you know, is usually very similar to what you saw today with James at the termite mound that he suspected was the hyena den site. Just trying to figure out the best position, and I think we could get eye level with them. There's a very persistent fly. So Bravo, you were wondering whether or not with wild dogs aging works the same way as it does in domestic dogs. So 1 year equals 7 years. And I'm actually not sure. Their life expectancy is slightly longer than that of domestic dogs of a similar size. They could live up to about 12 or so if they really needed to. But because and it's one of the things we've chatted about a lot, the average age is actually under 5. So a huge amount of the wild dogs around this area in Kruger Park, very, very few of them make it to 5 years old or older. So I guess in a way that aging process is quite similar. And there's some mysteries about why that is, why they die so young in this particular area. Hello, puppy. Oh. Have a quick shake and heading off to join the bigger pile of puppies. Oh, no, gonna lie down there behind the buffalo thorn. So Dex Gecko, I hope that my previous explanation answered a little bit about the life expectancy. Most of these animals will not live past 5 years old in this area. I'm just trying to look up exactly what the oldest recorded wild dog is. But average is definitely not much older than 5. Just double checking, bear with me one moment. And I went and double-checked, by the way, after our conversation yesterday about the exact numbers in terms of their diet and what it is they focus on. And I said that in terms of their diet, 60 to 80% of it was impala. I'd actually underestimated it. In the Kruger area, 87% of their diet can be made up of impala. So that is really what they focus on in this particular area. To have a look through my book and see if I can find you the oldest age recorded that a wild dog has lived to. And in the meantime, I think we should head across to James, who is out and about on quarantine.
Now, when you've been out in the bush on a walk for 3 hours, like the soldier Viam and I have been, it is always a pleasure to come across a tree that is fruiting earlier than it should be. And this marula tree seems to be fruiting. Oh, it doesn't seem to be, it is fruiting. And it's not supposed to be ripe yet, but this is a very delicious piece of fruit. Let me just show you what it is. There's not a lot of flesh on the fruit, and normally they're only ripe when they turn yellow. Now let's have a taste. You try to squeeze them out into your mouth. I can't get this one out. Delicious juice, really is kind of tart, but sweet, full of vitamin C, but very big pip, large seed there. Let's see. Oops. There's another one. This one not so ripe. This one will be horrible. It's quite hard. Very nice. And I've always found it such a rare pleasure to be able to walk in the wild, pick up something to eat. I don't know why. It's so amazing to be able to just walk around and find something nice to eat. Sorry, VM, I think that was the only ripe one. You'll have to go hungry. You'll get one next month. You'll be okay till then. The bread and water ration is coming in later. And this little piece of sort of the bush stuff that I'm carrying, we found near the new hyena, or the old hyena den, the main hyena den. They've obviously filched it from a dustbin somewhere. Right, let's head back to Jamie, see what those dogs are doing. We'll carry on walking through quarantine clearings before winding our way gently back home.
We're still with our flat packs of puppies, and I did just do a quick double check as to the oldest expected lifespan for wild dog, and very, very few of them live past the age of 9 or 10, and the average doesn't live past the age of 5. So that is a rough age that these pups can expect to reach. Sad to think that they are so short-lived. Maybe that goes some way towards explaining why it is their numbers just struggle to actually increase. Interesting fact that I just read up on while I was busy reading this was that around 1970, a wild dog pack was recorded around the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. Just a random, wonderfully interesting fact. It was a good 40, 50 years ago, but still really interesting to think that they are so adaptable and survive in areas like that. Now that the pup has moved, I think I'm going to shift around onto the dam wall. Lots of comparisons in terms of domestic animals and domestic dogs in particular. And Daniel, you were wondering how big they are in comparison to a German Shepherd. And the answer is small, a lot smaller than that. They're actually quite tiny creatures. They probably stand less than a meter at the shoulder, so less than 3 foot. And they weigh somewhere in the region of around 20 odd kilograms, 20 to 25. Some of the bigger specimens may weigh slightly more. So they're quite a lot smaller than a German Shepherd dog. And Barbara, you were wondering whether or not German Shepherds actually came or originated from wild dogs. And I can see sort of what you mean, particularly in terms of the coloration that they have. But no, not as far as I know. It would have been quite a distance for them to travel to have got to the point of origin of the German Shepherd breed. But probably, if you look far enough back, there will be a common ancestor somewhere, since they are essentially an African wolf. Just concentrate ever so slightly. This dam wall gets narrower every time I look at it. Get one last view of them before we get to our final destination. Let's head to James so that he can say farewell.
Right, that's it from us today, everybody. A wonderful walk we've been on. Thank you for your questions and comments while we've been strolling through the bush. It's been fantastic, very exciting with those buffalo and hyena a bit earlier. Thank you, VM. Some well-deserved rest you're going to have now after carrying all that thing. And we, as you can see, are very close to home now. And I'm going to hand you back to Jamie for the last few minutes, and we'll see you this afternoon, hopefully with a brand new hyena in. Bye-bye.
Still with our flat pack of puppies. We've been so incredibly spoiled today, and really, really fortunate that they did, for whatever reason it may have been for, that they did decide to return once again to Treehouse Dam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pups. Only 2 adults that I've been able to see at the moment, but you never know, the other one might be lying off somewhere in the shade just out of view. So at the moment we've got the Investic pack minus 1 adult. But at least all 11 pups are there, and I'm sure that other adult is somewhere in the vicinity. They've been distinctly restless, although they are all lying down. There's still been a fair amount of movement from all of them. Wagging tails. Well, we've definitely got something very exciting to look forward to. Jess, you were saying you can't believe that they are still resting. Well, it's good news for us. It means they're going to be here this afternoon for our sunset safari. And then at that point, you never know what they're going to do as the afternoon gets cooler. Well, it's been a fantastic morning, and it ended off with a proper bang and a high. So a big thank you to Tevs for all of his fantastic camera work, as well as to James and VM doing out and about on foot, and Kirst and Jerry in FC. Thank you all for your wonderful questions and for joining us on this spectacular morning. I hope that you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and don't forget to join us for the Sunset Safari tonight. Cheers, guys.